Thanks a lot, Sean. That was outstanding. And now I'd like to introduce the Associate Director of the Institute for Engineering and Medicine, Paul Izio.
Morning, everybody. What a great day. Exciting opportunity. I get to introduce the speakers and to hang out all day. And, you know, this is kind of an Inspire conference. And you think we're trying to inspire you, but everybody's going to inspire each other. And so I get inspired by all the students that come and visit my lab as well. I'll get inspired by today, and I'll get inspired by the speakers as well. So it's very exciting to introduce the people. The first person I'm going to introduce is David Ramirez. David was born in Colombia, and when he was about your age, his family decided to move from Colombia to the United States. And he'll tell a little bit of this story. And then he went on to study electrical engineering, worked in the communication industry for a while, and then after that decided he wanted to do something a little bit different than that. So went back to school, decided still that wasn't enough. So then he decided to pursue biomedical engineering here at the University of Minnesota. And one of the rotations that he did to decide what lab to go to was in my lab, which is the Visible Heart Lab, which is in the Department of Surgery. And it all clicked, and David's now a second-year PhD student in biomedical engineering in my lab. And I'll let David tell his story.
Thank you, Paul, for that nice introduction. It's really nice to be here with everybody, seeing everybody's faces. It's a really nice morning. So my talk is mostly about how I came to be going through a little bit of self-learning. Pretty much my story of coming to this country and how I came to really love science and use that as a way to lift my life forward on what I like to do. So here's my slide. Also, don't make fun of my pictures. They're kind of funny. Just a quick overview. High school, I had just arrived to the country, the United States. So that was my first high school experience. I also had a little bit of a duality to my nature. I really liked music. I really liked art. I liked literature as well. And I also liked my math, my sciences. I pretty much liked everything. I had always been a very curious kid. It's something that I was passionate about everything. And I had a couple of teachers who were also just as passionate, especially my chemistry teacher, and that passion was instilled in me, and I could be passionate about science as well, outwardly, not just like inside my head and just being curious about things, but just letting people know, like, oh, this is so interesting, let me learn more about this. And from then on, I went into doing my bachelor's degree. I also wanted to be a scientist. I didn't even know the degree of PhD existed when I was a young child. And so I just wanted to be a scientist, somebody who discovered things, somebody who invents things. And that's all I wanted to do. So when I went to engineering school, I got these tools to do problem solving, these tools to do inventive things, these tools to use science and mold them in a way that I wanted to use for whatever purposes that I needed them for. And I went to work, as Paul mentioned, and there was still an itch inside of me, that scientist itch, wanting to learn more things about the world. And so I went back, and my purpose was to become a scientist. And I knew that there was a philosophical degree in which the main purpose of it is to increase the knowledge of the collective, knowledge that exists in the world, right? So I wanted to be part of that team, the team that just increases how humanity moves forward. And this is where I am now, and I'm really happy to be here in the University of Minnesota doing amazing research. I work in Paul's lab. I get to work with hearts, reanimating human hearts and working in actual therapies, doing some really translational research, and it's super exciting. But a little bit more about me when I first came to this country. So let me tell you where I came from. So I came from Colombia. It's a really nice city called Cali. Some of you might know it from Netflix, not in a good way, but it's a really nice city now. So that's my school. That's my elementary and middle school. It was a private school. They were really into super, their mottos are education and discipline. So they really instill the values of really getting the fundamentals of science, of math, right. And the students, discipline, they always want to have that. So when my parents decided to move to the United States, I was thinking, well, what kind of school am I going to get into, right? So my parents didn't know much. They just came up here for a job, and they just got the first apartment they saw. They didn't know about school districts or any of that kind of stuff. And my only thoughts about school was what I saw from movies and TV. So I thought, well, what kind of school am I going to get? Is it going to be something like this? Maybe it's a little outdated, not exactly what I wanted, right? So then I thought, well, maybe it's going to be something like this, a little bit better. And I get up, first day of school, get off my bus, meet my classmates, and what do I get? I get this. So it turns out that due to some clerical error, the school thought that I had come from juvenile detention, as opposed from another country. So they placed me in the Students at Risk program. Our classrooms actually had bars on them. So, I'm coming into this place, first day of school, these are my classmates. They're all, I remember in the first 10 minutes, there was a fight, and somebody was out bleeding, and I just had never seen a fight ever in my entire life. So that was the contrast that I came into. And what did I look like on this first day? That was me. So it was a little rough, as you might imagine. So it was a rough time in my life, and the only thing that I could do was to me, that was the regular school. That's what I saw on TV. I mean, if you watch American movies or high school, it's usually pretty rough and tumble, or high school musicals. So I thought, well, this is the American experience. I have to live it now. And I lived it for a while, and the way I did it was I shut off myself from the world. So I would just always be in the one in the corner, silent, didn't speak to anybody. Our classrooms were pretty much a joke. They were just held there to hold the students in place for 8 hours a day. They didn't teach any math, they didn't teach any literature, they didn't teach anything at all. And after a couple of months, I remember thinking that I was losing myself. And then I realized that the library of the school was adjacent to the cafeteria. So I was able to go during lunchtime and actually check out books. So I started reading. I remember the first book that I took out was the first book that I saw, and that was Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is not the best thing to read if you're trying to learn English, But it was the only book that I had, and I only had 50 minutes or so to get the book. And I remember just taking back to class, and during math class, I read Dracula. During literature, I read Dracula. Well, that was pretty nice. And I just read. I read it. I must have read it about 10 times just to be able to understand it. But by the time I was over, I just wanted more books. And then I went back to the library, and I saw books about science. And I remember the book that hooked me was a book on how to make soap. And I remember they went a little bit about the science, about how fats form these structures, and I just wanted to know more about them. And then so I started getting books about chemistry, about how it worked, and all these things. And it just led me through a path of letting that curiosity part of myself bloom into these books and into this self-learning. And by the time I was able to get out of the program, I remember they had me tested because they wanted to know if I had to be held back a couple of years or 1 year. And it turns out that I was reading beyond 12th grade level in 9th grade. And that was because of all this self-learning that I did. And it led me, even to this day, I still do a lot of self-learning. It still keeps me going. And it's just another tool that you guys must think about for yourselves as well. We have teachers. It's amazing. I've learned to also, nowadays as I've grown, to accept help from others as well. So you always have to have a nice balance between your self-learning and getting guidance from your teachers, from your parents, from counselors and the like. So, when you move forward, even if you're stuck in a place, there's always ways that you can get out. If you take care of your own inward space, such as self-learning, you can also get yourself out and be able to move on and get awesome careers in science and do amazing, really cool stuff in medicine and engineering and science. So that's where I'm at right now, in this place, in this university. I came from Miami, which is super hot, into this super cool place. And I work in the cardiovascular space, doing science, letting my curiosity run wild, letting my creativity run wild, researching, learning all new things. So you can always say that I heart what I do.